Okay.
Moab 240.
Yes, sir.
That's so insane. Hey, what were you thinking? What were your initial thoughts? Like packing up, getting there when you first, both of you, like, what are you thinking when you're there?
Everything was surreal. Packing up for the race, I was, really nervous about everything. And then, getting on the plane and heading out west. But, once I got out there, it made me even more nervous because I'm in the city of Moab or the town of Moab, and, looking all around, it's all surrounded by mountains, and it's like, holy cow, like I'm gonna have to run up some of these. This is crazy. What am I even doing?
Yeah, I would just echo that, honestly. Packing up, I was like thinking the same thing. I'm like, what are we getting ourselves into here? And then I drove from LA to Moab, so I've never been anywhere like that, seen any of that scenery before. So that whole drive in was just like looking around, looking at like desert and mountains and this and that. And as we're getting closer and closer, I was just like, oh man, this is no joke.
And then, so like you're getting there and it's, you're checking in. Oh, actually you had like a day before, right? That you were kind of like exploring the place a little bit. And
Yeah, I showed up 2 days before the race. So I flew in to the airport in Canyonlands. And then I just, got in, went for a run and grabbed some dinner. And then Nick showed up that night. And then the next day we just kind of walked around town and, grabbed some food and just laid low for the day and checked in for the race. Didn't really do much.
so when the race starts, what are your emotions like? Like, I can't even imagine, dude. I mean, this is so mind blowing. Just even considering.
Pulling up to the race, I was nervous. I was really nervous, and it's dark out. And
what time does it start?
6 a.m. Yeah, and there's just the city's dead except for people pulling up to a RV park where the start finish line is, and a couple hundred people are just walking on over there. And I was nervous, and there's a lot of chatter going on everywhere. But once we took the oath at the start of the race, it was like I was shaking. I was so nervous for what was about to go down. And I can't even explain. It was very emotional at that start line, and scared and nervous and not knowing what was about to happen.
And you have what is your strategy? What are you trying to think strategy wise at this point? Because I know you've told me that you've tended to go out fast. Are you trying to not intentionally not go out too fast?
I was trying not to go out too fast, and my watch wasn't syncing for the first half a mile of the race. So I took off, and I was going to try and run a 10-minute pace. It was on the road for the first few miles, but my watch wasn't synced. So we got maybe 4 minutes into the race, and I'm looking down at my watch, and I don't have a synced watch, so I don't know the distance yet. And I was looking around, asking other runners what our mileage was, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't sprinting right out of the start, and I probably was. I felt like we were going pretty fast for the first 2 or 3 miles.
They're probably thinking, oh no, this guy's already asking how many miles in, and we're only 2.
Yeah.
So Nick, when you're logistically, how confident were you in whatever logistics you have to do to start? You have to meet him at points, right?
Yeah, so we I'll be honest, we were very unconfident. Like, when we got to Moab, it was me and one other guy that was like crew and helping out, and the other guy had to take off after a couple days. But we didn't do a whole lot of preparation, sort of like, quickly discussing a couple things, and then we got to Moab, and those couple days in advance, that's really when we like sat down and mapped everything out and started looking at like, all right, we're gonna go here, 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 and then it ended up being, all right, we're gonna go to every single aid station that we can, and we were pretty confident, but we hit a couple snags. There's like not a lot of service out there, so we're driving around. We almost missed a couple turns, and like there was some incident where some people like ran into some cattle that were on the road, so we were like helping people out, and there was a couple strange hiccups, but more or less we made it to every aid station. We got him like all the stuff that he needed, so that was great. But yeah, it was definitely interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I got to follow you a little bit, which was really cool. Just kind of watching you, and I'm looking at the terrain map. Like that looks like everything looks really steep.
Yeah.
That I was looking at, but you didn't have much connectivity, Nick. So like you couldn't even really kind of know if he was ahead of you or behind you, or
like the map that they had, it was like, obviously we're looking at such a long distance that it was accurate within like say 20-30 minutes. So we were like, all right, we'll get to the aid stations like 20-30 minutes in advance, sometimes earlier than that, just so there's no chance we miss him. And every time we get to him, we're checking in and making sure that he somehow didn't rip through there already. But for the most part, we did all of our timing pretty well. We beat him to every single one, which is nice. So
yeah, the first aid station, I was like probably half a mile out, and they drove by me on the road. That was funny.
You didn't need us for that one anyway. I was only 17 miles in, I think.
Yeah,
right?
I was in and out of there in probably like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So was it pretty chilly when you start? Like temperature is obviously a huge deal in this race.
Yeah, it was probably in the 50s when it started. It wasn't too bad. I started in a jacket, but after I think 3 miles, I got hot and I pulled it off, and was good until the nighttime. Just running in a tank top the whole first day.
How warm did it get that first day? Or do you know?
I think it was in the upper 70s, maybe even in the 80s, but the first day, a lot of the race is in the desert with no shade, and it felt a lot hotter than what it probably was.
Hydration wise, was that? I mean, you're obviously carrying stuff in your pack. You have like a Camelback, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I had two 17-ounce water bottles and then a Camelback, or a hydration reservoir, whatever you call it, with water. And I think it goes up to maybe like 5 liters. I don't know the exact, but I would fill that depending on how long the stretch I was about to go on was. Like if I knew I wasn't going to need the full reservoir to get to the next aid station, I wasn't filling it all the way because I didn't want to carry around that extra weight. But we had one stretch where we had 26 miles between aid stations with one water station after 4 miles, and then after that nothing for 22 miles. So that was the only time I ran out of water during the race, so that got a little bit hairy, and that was from like 32 miles to like 58 or 59 miles.
Is when you were out of how far were you out of water, would you say? Like
Probably the last hour I was running.
Ooh, and then I'm getting warm part of the day.
It was sunset when I finished that section, but when we started it, the sun was beating down. It was pretty tough out there in the desert at that point when we started.
Are you starting to freak out then?
No, I was still feeling pretty good at that point. The first day, my real only issue, I had some stomach issues like early on, like around 40 miles. But then after that, I felt good and was like cruising once I got through that. And then didn't really have any troubles until the first night.
Before we get there, did you go out? So tracking you were towards the front of the pack at the beginning. And did you go out a little fast? I mean, once everything connected or you were just going with what felt good?
I was just going with what felt good. I didn't feel like I was going out fast. Yeah, I think I started falling off at night during the first night. I kind of just fell apart a little bit, and they didn't see me from mile 70 to 120, and I kind of had a crazy 50 miles, crazy day before they saw me, and was pretty out of it.
Yeah. That was a tough stretch. We met him at like 70. I think it was around midnight or maybe a little earlier than that.
Yeah.
And he was doing great. We were like getting ready to tell him to take a nap and eat some food. And he was like, nope, I'm feeling good. I'm just going to go. And we were like, oh, okay. Like, if you feel good, like, I'm not going to stop you. But yeah, that next aid station definitely needed a nap.
Yeah. I went through that mile 70 aid station and I was cracking jokes and on top of the world. And then at some point I was out in the middle of the desert and it started getting cold and I started getting tired. I took a nap in the dirt for 20 minutes. I set a timer. I just sprawled across the middle of the trail. But then I got up and I was still pretty out of it. I was trudging through like a bunch of mud and I couldn't really see because it was dark out, and I kept falling in the mud and my shoes were disgusting and I got lost, and I saw a headlamp. So I followed a headlamp and I got into that next aid station and was like maybe at 85 miles. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing right now. This is crazy. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then I probably spent like an hour and a half at that aid station, did the next section, and that section was really hard too. That was, I can't remember what the 85 aid station was, but the next aid after that was Bridger Jack. And I took a nap when I got to Bridger Jack for maybe like 40 minutes because rain passed overhead. And I knew I was about to go on the one of the toughest parts of the course. I think I did pretty good on this part. I thought there was another section later on that was harder for me, but this section was probably okay because it was light out. It was Chase Mountain. There's about 4,000 feet of elevation gain on that, and that was a pretty tough climb that I finished right before sunset, and there were still a couple more miles in the section, and that's when I started hallucinating, and needed a real nap and not like a 20-minute nap in a chair at an aid station. So when I got to the next aid station, that was my first time seeing these guys since probably like 20 hours or so, and I was like, yeah, I need a nap.
What are you doing, Nick? Like when he comes in, like, are you trying to be positive? Like, what do you?
As much as we can, right? Like, he's looking like death compared to the night before. Looking.
Have you ever seen him that bad? Like, is that?
I mean, I've paced him a couple times on these on some hundreds, and I'm like, when I pace him, like I've done it, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. I've shown up and it's been 4 in the morning and he's got 6 hours left or 8 hours left and he's not looking great, but he looked pretty bad at this 120. Like he was looking pretty down. That mountain looked like it won. Like it definitely beat him. But I mean, we were all high spirits. We were getting ready to go in because we can't pace till mile 70, and neither of us were confident enough to take the 50-mile stretch because it looked like it was all uphill. It took him close to 20 hours. So we were like, all right, we'll jump in at the next stretch. So because basically our pacing mindset was like, if we can't finish a stretch, he gets DQ'd. So like we were like, we're not going to jeopardize anything like that. Like I'm only going to do something that I know I can finish. So that's why
I didn't
50.
I didn't know that. If your pacer can't finish it, you get DQ'd.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, you need to stick with your pacer, and you can only switch out pacers at certain aid stations.
Yeah, which is the problem. It's like a lot of these aid stations, yeah, they're like usually between 15 to 20 apart, but sometimes it's 15 to just a no crew aid station and then another 20 to the next one. So it's like you have to commit to the 37 miles or whatever. But, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. We were pretty excited to see him at 120. He was looking rough. He took a nap. We ate some food, and then our buddy went with him for the next stretch. And I think it was pretty uphill after that for a little while, at least a couple hours, right?
Yeah, I was good until like the middle of the next day. Alex and I went through the night. We got to the next aid station. You met us there. Then we swapped out pacers. So that was from Shea Mountain to Dry Valley. So we were at about 140 miles. I switched pacers, and I was good for probably like, I don't know, 22 of those next 27 miles when I was with you. And then at like mile 162-ish, I started to lose it again a little bit. I was not in the best headspace.
No,
and I needed some sleep.
Yeah, he was down pretty bad. At one point, we just had to like sit on the trail for a couple minutes, just let fingers get out for a second.
Is he grumpy?
Lie to he was like, I don't know. I'm just there being like light, trying to like keep him laughing, keep him like his mind off of like all the shit he's dealing with, right? And I don't know. I'm like playing music and talking and joking, and it just wasn't getting through to him. Finally, he's just like, how far? And I just had to lie to him over and over. I'm just like, oh, dude, it's only like a mile. It's like 4 miles away. It's like a mile, dude. One more mile. Finally, we got there. I think
but that's all. That's honestly the way you get through a lot of these. I mean, the little bit I've done, it's 1 mile at a time, one step at a time, whatever.
Yeah.
However small you have to chunk it up.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you, Chase. So you told me last time we talked that 100 feels amazing no matter what. Like every time you get 100 miles in, it's quite a great feeling. But I would imagine 100, knowing there's 140 left to go, might be a different kind of feeling.
Yeah, I got to that. Bridger Jack was the 100-mile aid station, and when I got there, I was like, all right, we're in the triple digits now. Like we've got a really good chunk of this race done. And this is like where I've stopped every time in the past, and I've still got over double that to go. This is I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do what I can. I mean, I was in over my head at that point. I wasn't doing the best at that mile 102 aid station. Yeah.
How hard is that the hardest 100 you've done?
I guess that was the hardest 100, I guess, elevation wise, the course itself. That was my slowest 100 too, but I wasn't, trying to run 100 miles fast at Moab. I was, pacing myself for 200 miles. I think the 100 that I ran this summer in June was probably the hardest 100 I ever finished. Just because dealing with the heat at that, and I wasn't doing so well in the heat, but that first 100 miles at Moab it's no joke. It's a wake up call.
So when Nick's lying to you, are you aware that you're being lied to? And how do you get through that?
He doesn't know.
No, I didn't really know much of what was going on. I was not all there in my head. I took a 2-hour nap after we finished that section before I started up again, and that was the longest nap I took during the race. And
do you set a time for 2 hours?
Yeah.
Like,
So
how do you even decide? How do you even decide 2 hours, not 6, not 8, not 1? Like, how do you decide?
I just kind of said I need something longer than I took at the last aid station, and at the last aid station I did an hour and a half. So I just set a timer for 2 hours, and after 50 minutes, I was laying on a cot in a tent. After 50 minutes, I woke up and I shook myself awake, and I was like, "Oh my God, I've got a race to run." I was like, I gotta get going. I've been sleeping for like 6 hours. And then I looked at my timer and I'd only been asleep for an hour and 10 minutes. I was like, wow, I feel pretty decent right now. So, I'll get another 50 minutes in and I'll feel even better. So I slept for another 50 minutes and woke up, and the people at the aid station, when I initially got there, were like, you're going to sleep, right? Because you don't look good. And like, after I woke up and was ready to leave, they were like, wow, you look like a different person right now. Like you look ready to go. So they sent me on my way.
What's it like at these aid stations? I mean, they have lots of food and snacks and drinks.
Yeah, they're pretty incredible. You pull up to a tent in the desert and they're grilling food, and they have soda and electrolyte drinks and water and chips and fruit and like everything you could think of. They have a medic. So if you have like blisters or something going on, they'll have somebody who will tape up your foot for you. They have chairs for all the runners to sit in. They have some aid stations have cots so you could sleep. They have fires going. They're pretty awesome. They really take good care of you at Moab.
So Nick, so you finished pacing him, and then do you switch out pacers again?
So this is where it got funky for us, because my buddy left after. So we had one rental car that we were sharing. My buddy left with the rental car, brought it back to our hotel, left it there, got a flight home. So now I'm at this aid station after I finished with him, and I'm like, and we're like an hour from Moab, because we're running like these long distances. We're like an hour from town. So I just walked around and kind of waited for like 20, 30 minutes and was just like talking to some people. Finally met some folks, and they were volunteered to give me a ride back, and got a ride back. Ate, slept. Because like as a pacer or as a crew, like you're like kind of up all night too. Like I didn't sleep during this whole thing very much myself. Like I tried to squeeze in naps and sleep when I could, but like I was never waking up rested ever. And this, after I paced him that night, I made sure I was like, I'm sleeping. I'm not going to see this kid for another, I think at that point it was like 34 miles maybe. I was like,
Yeah.
He's not at this pace, he's going up a hill. I'm like, I can go to bed and come back tomorrow. So that was the plan. And my knee was bothering me a little bit going into the race. Like I've been having some issues with it. So I was like hesitant to even pace at all. But the 27 I did felt great. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to plan to do this next stretch, but like if he needs me, I'll bring all my stuff. And then I showed up in the morning to meet him at 200, and he was like, yeah, you're fucking running with me. I was like,
okay. So you're not driving yourself to that. Like, where's your vehicle this whole time?
So our vehicle was at the hotel. So like I got a ride back to the hotel, and then I drove the vehicle with all of his aid stuff up to this aid station on the top of a mountain. and left it there, left the car there, locked it, left the car, and finished the race with him. And then the next day we managed to get a ride back up the mountain, but
Yeah.
not easy being a one-man crew.
I can't imagine. I was trying to figure out the logistics in my head.
It was not easy. No, it was not easy. It would be one thing if I wasn't running, but like having a pace and having the car, it just didn't really work out well. But we made it work. But
Now, so you're running through some pretty amazing scenic stuff. Are you even able
Yes.
to enjoy it at all? Like, are you?
Yeah. Yeah. When at the beginning of the race, I was definitely really enjoying the scenery. I was trying to stop and take pictures when I could, or, slow down and take some pictures. I'm not the best at remembering to take pictures of things. So I definitely missed out on taking pictures of some cool views that I saw. But when I was running with Nick the last 40 miles, he took some videos and pictures along the way. And the end of the race, going through Porcupine Rim, we were in a canyon during the sunset. So we got to see some really nice views out there, and he took some pictures. Yeah.
Do you make any mistakes you made along the way?
Yeah.
Or things you do different?
Yeah, I mean, one of my big things I'll have to focus on doing next time is trying to run a little bit more when my pacer is egging me on to get running. There were some times where I was just, completely out of it and just cranky and like didn't want to run, and I definitely could have. I was just struggling mentally to do it, not that my body couldn't. And I definitely realized I was in a lot better shape than I thought I was at one of the aid stations at mile 200. I just had a really tough night. I had a section 15 miles that took me 8 hours, and I was looking at someone laying on a cot at that aid station, and they were getting their feet tended to, and the entire width of his foot, the pads on his feet, like just beneath his toes, there was just no skin the whole width on both feet. And I was like, I'm not in as bad a shape as this guy, and it looks like he's still going to keep going. So I guess I have to, like, I gotta, try a little bit harder here.
Nick, you're seeing other people come in and out of aid stations. Are they looking? There's some that probably look amazing and some that look just way worse.
There's a variety of things. There's definitely a lot of people that are looking defeated. There are people that are moving slow, that are sounding confident and sounding great, but they're like limping out. So I'm like, and I don't know. There's people that are just a combination of both that are just ready to be done. There's just a myriad of different things to see at those aid stations. It was cool. It seemed like after a little while we were seeing some of the same people at each one. Like, even if you get out in front of somebody, right, then you go to an aid station, you sit down, you're there for 20 minutes, maybe you take a nap or something, then you leave, and it's like you could have gained some ground on someone, but all of a sudden they come through. So it feels like we were kind of meeting some people along the way, which is cool. Talking to the same people at each aid station, but some of the volunteers shift aid stations too. So we ran into some of like the crew for the aid stations, like at a couple of them. But
Chase, did you have any doubt along the way that you would finish? Nick keeps laughing when I ask these questions.
Yeah, I thought the whole time that I was going to finish no matter what. I didn't really care about the time at the end of the day for my first time running the race. I just wanted to get across the finish line. It didn't matter to me if there was a second left on the clock. I just wanted to get there. And once I got to that 200-mile aid station and he was coming out pacing me, and we had I want to say like maybe like 42 hours until the cutoff. Like we had it like we were gonna get there. It was in the bag at that point. So I was feeling very confident, you know, once I had a pacer at 200 miles. But I guess the part that I felt the worst on, where I was the least confident in getting to that finish line, was like around probably about 190 miles or so in Pole Canyon. We're up on a mountain like 10,500 feet above sea level in the dark, and there's, you know, some snow on the ground, and I was having trouble navigating, and I laid down for a little while because I needed like 20 minutes of sleep. And I put a bivy on and laid down in some grass that was wet, and I started shivering, and I was like, did I just screw myself by laying down in this wet grass? I'm like so cold right now, and I have so far until the next aid station. So what am I going to do if something happens to me? I gotta get moving and figure this out. And that was like the worst part during the race, that section. But after that was done though, I knew the race was downhill for the most part after that. And so it was going to be much easier, and we were going to get it done after that.
How'd you get through that though? I mean, how'd you find, and what is it? Somebody asked me today, like, how do you, like, I did my stupid 13 miles a day for 31 days. And a friend of mine asked me, so how'd you do it? What got you through it? I'm like, I'm not even sure. Like, I didn't have a good answer for him. Like, what got you, like, most people couldn't find a way, I wouldn't think, to figure out what you figured out in that 10-mile stretch, whatever it was. Like, how'd you get through it?
I just, you know, I wanted to finish that race and just have the Moab buckle so bad, and I wanted to be able to wear my Moab apparel that I got for signing up for the race. And I kept saying it along the way. I kept saying I gotta get to the finish line. So, and the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a shower, and I'm gonna put my Moab sweatshirt on. I'm gonna lay in bed and drink a beer. But I really don't know how I pushed through the night. I just, you know, a lot of the time when I'm struggling during a run, I'll just reflect on how much training I've done and, you know, where I started from. And it's like, and you think to what you're doing in that moment. I'm on a mountain in Utah trying to run 240 miles. This is crazy. I couldn't even imagine doing this a couple of years ago, and now I'm just doing this right now. Might as well, you know, make the most of it.
So towards the end, Nick, are you seeing him look better, like, as you're getting closer to the finish?
Well, no. All right. Well, I'd say from when I met him at that aid station that morning, like I got, it was the same as like that first day. Because I'm driving up the mountain, I get to, you know, I can see him like coming up, so I'm like driving next to him, and he doesn't look great. You know, he just had a rough night, and we get there, and we're
My hiking pole.
we're at the aid station, and he's like moping and being kind of grumpy, and then like they've got like all sorts of soda and food up there, so there's like bees buzzing around, and this kid was getting so aggravated because the bees kept landing near him, and he didn't look great, but he convinced me to run, and I got all my stuff on, locked the car up, and then we started going. And the whole last stretch, we were just talking about how we were done, and that, like, yeah, it was like, at least 12. What was that? That last stretch was like, it was like 12 hours, I think, right? 11 to 11 or 10 to 11,
Yeah.
maybe 13 hours or something like that. We were just talking about how we were done the entire day. We're like, we're done. You're done. Like, and like, definitely was looking great up until the last, like, I don't know, 5, 6,
5 miles. Yeah.
5 miles. It was just because, like, the end is in sight, but it doesn't seem like it's getting any closer. Like the city from 10 miles to like 5 miles, just like it looks at the same distance away because it's like dark out. You can see the lights out in the distance. You're like, oh, it's right there. It's
Yeah.
right there. But it doesn't look any closer. We had to like traverse a canyon at the very end that was just a just a pain. But
Yeah.
when you got to you finish, and then you got 3 miles of pavement at the end, and that was great. We were right back up, down, right back up at the end there. So
Yeah, the end of the race, when you're going through the canyon, you could see like really far ahead. So we could see like a few headlamps miles ahead of us, but they look way closer because it's dark out and we have no perception of how far away they are. And they're probably climbed down the canyon and we're, on the other side at that point, but yeah, I was definitely getting frustrated at that end part when we were climbing down the canyon. My shin was acting up, and I was just getting so aggravated with the rocks and like climbing down. It wasn't easy. I had to use my hands and climb down this thing, and my body's not doing the best.
How uncomfortable are you?
I'm pretty uncomfortable. I'm mostly like cranky. The best way to describe it, I just wanted to be at the finish line because we could see the road and we could see cars driving on the road, but we were so far up on the canyon that we were still a ways away, but it felt so much closer.
And then what's it like when you're getting actually legitimately close?
Once we stepped on the pavement, we got off that cliff and we were on the pavement. It was like, oh my God, this is happening now. Like this is just a 3-mile run up the road and we're done. And it felt crazy. Like when we were on the road, we were just reflecting for a while about everything that went on. And we're just like, we're out here running along the Colorado River in Utah right now. This is crazy. What are we doing? And then with about a mile to go, I had a great idea to sprint to the finish line. So we took off probably at like 6:30 pace for like a good half mile. We were cruising.
I think we were going faster than that. So yeah, we were going pretty good.
We were going very fast, and I don't know where it came from.
Yeah, I was shocked that you still had that in the tank. I was like, how is he doing this? We couldn't, needless to say, we couldn't hold it up. We had to cut it off like right before we got to the end.
Trying to drop your pacer in the last mile. DQ.
Yeah.
So what's it like crossing that finish line, man?
Oh, it was like easily the greatest moment of my life. I obviously the greatest accomplishment in my life. I've never trained so hard for anything and wanted anything so bad. And it was 89 hours, but it felt like years out there. Just when you cross the finish line, it's like that was a little under 4 days, and it did not feel like 4 days. I felt like I was like 10 years older.
I can't even imagine. What's it like doing it with Nick?
Oh, it's great having crew. They're, supporting you the whole way. They're so helpful. I probably couldn't have done it without these guys helping me. It was a blessing.
What Moab teach you?
It taught me that I could do a lot more than I think I can. And I think I can go further one day, and I think I'll probably try to at some point. Because I don't think that was my limit. I think there's more, and I'd like to test that boundary.
How close was that to your limit, Nick?
I mean,
what you did was pretty freaking hard.
It was like I lucked out with the stretches that I did. I'll just say that. Like that 27 that I did, pretty much mostly flat. The 40 that we did was all downhill. One of the coolest runs I've been on. But I mean, by the end of it, I was like, yeah, I mean, I could keep going, but I definitely want to do something longer. Like last man standing, I pulled it like 54. I'm going for 100 next year. So
you and me both.
Yeah.
And maybe next year you won't be hiding Chase's headlamps.
Yeah. Yeah. That was tough. We talked about shutting the headlamps off too, like a mile before, and then he shut his off and didn't say anything to me, and I just forgot, and we just finished. Yeah, it was tough. But.
Do you think you're gonna try Moab someday, Nick? Role reversal here.
I gotta get 100 a couple times before that conversation can happen, but maybe I don't know. I'm gonna say no, but I'm not gonna say yes. It would be cool. I mean, it definitely was interesting seeing it from the pacing side of it. I'm sure Chase would love to do the pacing.
Yeah,
get some good rest in, but I don't know. We'll see. It would be years if I did. That's for sure. Because
so Chase, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, how many hundreds did you do before Moab? That was like you did like 5, maybe
5. Yeah,
5. Yeah. So.
It's just ho hum for you at this point.
Yeah. Sure.
Do you have? I mean, honestly, like watching you in the beginning, just from where I was on the tracking thing, though, that like you were out with the elite runners, like you were at the front of the pack for a good, chunk. Do you have aspirations to kind of be at that level?
If I am ever good enough one day, yeah, I mean, sure, but I mean, I don't know. I just want to do my best, and as long as I'm having fun, I don't want to take the fun out of what I'm doing, put all that pressure on myself. But doing what I do now, I'm having a blast. I'm just going to keep doing that for now.
Do you have something next on the calendar?
I was looking into some races for next year. I saw this 72-hour one in April that I was thinking of. Now that I've kind of done 200 once, I kind of want to do it again. But I'm not 100% sure. The only thing I know that I'm definitely doing next year is Last Man Standing. And the next 2 months I'll be figuring out what I'm doing in the earlier months of next year.
Did you see the U.S. championships for Backyard Ultra? Jason Begonia?
Yeah, he did. He did amazing.
200 and something. Pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah. Hopefully he does that at Last Man Standing in Maine next year, and he could drag me along for a while.
All you guys were doing last man standing and just warming up for your other races. And it's my
Yeah.
Super Bowl. Thinking I'm competing and there's just a practice run for you guys.
Well, it was the Super Bowl for me. I mean, I had never done an ultra before that, so that was a good time. I'll definitely be going back, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to do another 50 or something before that. Got a marathon in January too. So,
what was the recovery like? Like how beat up were you?
I didn't run for I think like 10 or 11 days, I think. In my first run back, I did 1 mile, and it was tough. It was a tough mile. It was tougher than any mile at Moab. But I'm still easing back into it now. The furthest I've gone is 5 miles, but I'm taking my time because, you know, I put in all year into getting ready for this race, and kind of just relaxing for now before I ramp it up next year. Because I'm going to be training really hard for Last Man.
You and me both.
Oh yeah.
I say that like I'm going to compete.
I just want 100, man. I just want 100. Have you done 100 before, Ben?
I have not. So I did 90 that day.
Yeah.
In total, but I left because I was satisfied. I mean, honestly, 100 feels like it's well within my skills at this point. I want to get into the second night and see what I can do. That's my goal.
Nice.
Who knows? You start one of these long races though. I mean, things can go bad really quick.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do anything different training wise, Chase? Like, do you have any other ideas? Like how to it's something I keep thinking about. Like, how do I improve at this stuff? It's like, do I do more? Begonia says he never runs over 20 miles.
Really?
You know, yeah, and never.
Huh.
And then Jason Giroux, he basically barely run. Like he runs 5-6 miles here and there. He lifts. Like lifting is more his thing, and lots of ab stuff. Like I'm like,
Really?
and I'm putting in crazy miles, and I don't know if it's good or not. Like,
Huh.
I don't know what the strategy for this is.
Yeah, I was gonna get into doing the high mileage like I normally do next year, you know, 80 to 100 mile weeks, and then I wanted to run a couple of races that were longer than a day next year, which is why I was looking at that 72-hour race, because I don't want to stop at 100 next year, Last Man, and I want to get used to I want to get to a point at Last Man Standing where I'm, you know, like 2 days into the race, and it's not like at Moab where, all right, I'm on day 2 in a race. I haven't been here before. I want to get to day 2 and been like, I've been here before, and I know how I'm feeling, and I should be feeling this way, and I know I've pushed through this before, so I know I could do this now.
Yeah, I'm torn on what the best path is for all this stuff. But what you did is so impressive, man. It was cool watching it from a distance. It really was. Like,
Thank you.
Just, yeah. I mean, I posted on Instagram there, like I was doing my 13 miles a day for 31 days. And I think I was like, I can't remember how many days in, but I'm like, and my body was feeling pretty beat up. I'm like, I'm at the point where Chase did this in 3 days and I'm, 15, 20, whatever days it in. I'm like, damn, that's a lot of miles.
Yeah. Yeah. It was tough out there.
It's awesome. It was cool watching you. I can't wait to compete with you again.
Oh yeah. I can't wait either, man.
I wish there's more Last Man Standings.
Yeah.
Not that my old body could handle more of them, but
yeah, it's gonna be fun next year. It's hopefully everyone's running a PR that day.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you guys for doing this. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Any final thoughts, Moab?
I'll be back, and hopefully I'm doing it a lot faster than I did it this time, because I want to really go back and compete next time and be up towards the front.
What do you think you could drop? Like how I know it's probably impossible to kind of judge like how much faster, but drop a day.
Maybe next time try to finish in under 72 hours, set the bar pretty high for myself, knock off 17 hours, a little over 17 hours. That'd be a good challenge.
Knowing now, like, what parts of the course you want to be at, like, there's certain parts that you don't want to be on at night, and there's parts that you want to be on during the day, right? So I feel like knowing that now, and then taking like some game plan into that, you could use that to help. And then obviously I think we need more crew. Like, a 1-person crew is like not ideal for this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you go back, I could pace you for a good chunk, but definitely need another person full-time crewing at all the stations and stuff. So
yeah.
Crazy. Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a great night.
Yeah.
You too, Ben. Thanks.
We'll keep in
Thanks
touch.
for having us.
Appreciate it.
We'll be in touch.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.